Good evening and welcome to the March 20th, 2023 Zoning Hearing Master Meeting. I'm Pamela Jo Hatley and I'll be serving as your Zoning Hearing Master this evening. Before we get started, if you will please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Again, I'm Pamela Jo Hatley, and I'll be serving as your Zoning Hearing Master this evening. If you have any noise-making devices, cell phones or computers or anything, would you please silence those at this time? And before we get started, I would like to introduce Mr. Brian Grady of the Hillsborough County Development Services Department. Mr. Grady will introduce the staff and any agenda changes, withdrawals, or continuances.
Good evening again. For the record, Brian Grady, Development Services. Before I go through the changes, agenda, and withdrawals and continuances, joining us at the dais tonight are, to my left, Mary Dorman with the County Attorney's Office. To her left, Jillian Massey with the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission. Also, other staff in attendance here tonight are Michelle Heinrich, Tim Lampkin, Sam Ball, Chris Grandillard, and Isis Brown. And joining us online with our transportation staff are Richard Perez, Alex Steady, and James Ratliff. We have no changes in tonight's agenda. Therefore, I'll go through the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 4 of the agenda. The first item is agenda item A1, major mod application 22-0671. This application out of order to be heard and has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A2, rezoning PD 22-1082. This application is being withdrawn by the zoning administrator in accordance with LDC section 100302C2. Item A3, major mod application 22-1116. This application has been continued by staff to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A4, rezoning PD 22-1204. This application has been continued by the applicant to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A5, major mod application 22-1236. This application has been continued by the applicant to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A6, major mod application 22-1239. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A7, rezoning PD 22-1257. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A8, rezoning PD 22-1330. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A9, rezoning PD 22-1390. This application has been continued by the applicant to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A10, major mod application 22-1392. This application has been continued by the applicant to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Excuse me. Item A11, major mod application 22-1501. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A12, rezoning PD 22-1503. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A13, major mod application 22-1510. This application is being continued by staff to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A14, major mod application 22-1543. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A15, rezoning PD 22-1577. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A16, major mod application 22-1637. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A17, major mod application 22-1638. This application is being continued by the applicant to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A18, major mod application 22-1639. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A19, rezoning PD 22-1640. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A20, rezoning PD 22-1647. This application out of order to be heard has been continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A21, rezoning standard 22-1654. This application is being continued by staff to the May 15, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A22, rezoning standard 22-1681. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A23, rezoning PD 22-1688. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A24, rezoning PD 22-1701. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A25, rezoning PD 22-1702. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item A26, rezoning PD 22-1703. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item 827, rezoning PD 22-1706. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. Item 828, rezoning standard 23-0081. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. And item 829, rezoning standard 23-0082. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 17th, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing. That concludes all withdrawals and continuances.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grady. The agenda tonight consists of items that require a public hearing by a hearing master before going before the Board of County Commissioners for a final decision. I will conduct a hearing on each item today and will submit a written recommendation. My written recommendation will be filed with the clerk of the board within 15 working days after the conclusion of today's public hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will consider the record of today's public hearing and my recommendation, and will make the final decision on the application at a publicly noticed meeting on the date and time set by the Board of County Commissioners. The hearings today will be informal. I will ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony and may call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate. I will decide all questions of procedure. I will take evidence, but will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony shall be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding of fact unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil court action. The order of presentation tonight will be as follows. First, the County Development Services staff, Mr. Grady, will introduce each item. Then the applicant and the applicant's witnesses will have 15 minutes to present the proposal. County Development Services will then have 5 minutes to present its findings and recommendations. Planning Commission will have 5 minutes to present its finding of compliance or noncompliance with the comprehensive plan. Proponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments in support of the proposal. Opponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments against the proposal. County staff will have 5 minutes to present any amended recommendations, and the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal and summation. The 15 minutes for proponents and opponents is the total time allotted among the speakers. So if there are a number of persons who wish to speak, the 15 minutes will be distributed among them. If there are a number of people who wish to speak on an item, you may designate a single spokesperson to represent your views. When you come to the microphone to speak, please first state your name and address for the record. The meeting is being recorded, so please speak into the microphone so your testimony can be recorded. When you're finished speaking, please see the clerk to my left and sign in for the record. Now we'll hear from the County Attorney's Office, who will state the legal requirements for requesting oral argument at the public meeting where the Board of County Commissioners will make a final decision on each item.
Tonight's public hearing is the first step of a two-step rezoning process. This hearing is a time for rezoning applicants and interested parties to present testimony and evidence. Any evidence presented tonight will become the complete factual record of each application, and no additional evidence can be introduced after the closing of each application. The second step of the rezoning process is a public meeting before the Board of County Commissioners, where the board will make a decision on each application heard tonight. Tonight's applications are scheduled to be heard by the board at its May 9th, 2023 land use meeting. When considering applications, the board will only review the record created at tonight's hearing and the recommendation made by the land use hearing officer for each application. The land use hearing officer will file a recommendation for each application heard tonight on April the 10th, 2023. The Board of County Commissioners has established a policy that directs which rezoning and major modification applications are to be placed on the consent agenda of the board's land use meeting. Applications that propose to add density outside the urban service area, applications that are on roadways with a failing level of service, and applications that have had evidence or testimony provided to the record by non-applicant parties of record either prior to or at the public hearing tonight are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. Applications which do not have consistent recommendations of approval or denial are also not qualified to be placed on the consent agenda. The board shall allow public testimony by parties of record at its meeting to consider the land use hearing officer's recommendation for any item on the regular agenda. Any public testimony shall be limited to the record of the proceedings before the land use hearing officer unless additional evidence has been found admissible in accordance with Section 10.03.04D of the Land Development Code. A party of record is an individual who fits into at least one of the following four categories. First, an individual who is present tonight and presents testimony or documentary evidence. Second, an individual certified by the U.S. Postal Service as having been mailed notice of tonight's hearing. Third, an individual who submitted documentary evidence to the master file at least 2 business days prior to tonight's hearing. Or fourth, an individual who submitted documentary evidence by proxy at tonight's hearing. Again, the content of oral argument before the board shall be limited to the content of the testimony and other evidence submitted verbally or in writing to the land use hearing officer tonight. It is the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that only individuals who have met these requirements are allowed to speak before the board and to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is introduced or allowed at the board's public meeting. For these reasons, please make sure that all information you wish the board to consider at its public meeting is entered into tonight's record.
Thank you, Ms. Dorman. All right, all testimony tonight must be taken under oath. So if you plan to speak tonight, please stand as you're able, raise your hand, and I will swear you in. If there's anyone online who plans to speak, please do the same. All right, do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
I do.
All right, Mr. Grady, I believe we're ready to call the first case, please.
The first item is agenda item B1, major mod application 22-0686. The applicant is Ryan Plate. The request is for a major modification of existing plan development. Madam Hearing Officer, this is remanded at the request of the applicant to seek a modification to requirements regarding cross access along the eastern boundary. The report reflects changes regarding that issue, and Michelle Hine will provide that presentation after that recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
All right.
Nope. There we go. For the record, Michael Brooks, 400 North Tampa Street, Suite 1910, Tampa 33602. I'm here on behalf of petition 22-0686. As Mr. Grady said, this is a remand. I will keep my, the issue is fairly narrow, and I'll keep my comments brief. I will reintroduce for the record, though, I have my client here, Ryan Plate. I have the Height Design team here, Sheila Terry, our urban planner, and Tim Plate, who is the project engineer. This came before you on December 12th, for Madam Hearing Officer. And at the time, we advised you that we were having some difficulties with a cross-access design and some other transportation conditions. you issued a recommendation of approval on January 5th. There is only one change before you this evening, which is administrative variance LDC 60402B sub 3, and it's to eliminate the cross-access to the east. And there's a very detailed letter signed and sealed by Mr. Plate in the record, and it's in the staff report. It's dated January 17th, 2023. To avoid redundancy and repetition, I will just read the factors that are, for the record, that are addressed in there by Mr. Plate's letter. He analyzed the consistency of the requirement to the adjacent rezoning, the extensive construction requirements involved with the cross-access, substantial wetland impacts and permitting that would be required, the fact that the cross-access would be across a significant stormwater conveyance area and floodway, the unknown alignment issues and the substantial grade changes between the two properties, and the lack of really a benefit in the potential negative impacts to the adjacent landowner. And based on those factors, he analyzed the variance standards, and that has been recommended for approval by Hillsborough County staff. That's the conclusion of all my comments. I could have Mr. Plate came up, but like I said, I think his letter speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Development Services. And be sure and sign in with the clerk, please.
Good evening, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As you heard, this is a major modification to PD 171402, which is currently permitted for a charter school. This major modification will remove those entitlements and replace it with 150,000 square feet of general commercial uses. And when you originally heard this application, access was shown to occur on the north, west, and cross-access to occur at the east and south. Development Services found the request supportable, while Planning Commission did not find it consistent with the comprehensive plan. At the February 7th BOCC land use meeting, this application was remanded back to the ZHM at the applicant's request, mainly, as the applicant discussed tonight, to discuss the eastern cross-access point. And upon further discussions with transportation staff, an administrative variance was filed by the applicant, and it was found to be approvable, and therefore the eastern cross-access point is no longer requested. Also, I would note that under the remand back, Planning Commission was able to reevaluate their findings because they could consider the EPC comments that were filed after their staff report finding, and that has been changed to a finding of consistency. And I do have a revised staff report to correct a typo that I'll hand out to you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
All right, have no questions right now. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, we'll hear from Planning Commission, please.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. This is Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the residential 4 future land use category. The intent of the residential 4 is to designate areas that are suitable for low-density residential development. In addition, suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office, multi-purpose, and mixed-use projects serving the area may be permitted. It's in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan. There are wetlands located on the property, and as Ms. Heinrich mentioned, EPC had since submitted comments into the record, and Planning Commission staff was able to review those and further evaluate the request based on that. The Environmental Protection Commission Wetlands Division has reviewed the proposed rezoning and has determined that the site's current configuration, a resubmittal is not necessary. The proposed modification is consistent with the intent of the residential 4 future land use category. The proposed modification would facilitate non-residential uses comparable to the development pattern in the surrounding area. The proposed commercial, general, and office uses would complement the development pattern within the general vicinity and are consistent with the future land use element policy 1.4, objective 16, and policies 16.2 and 16.3. The subject site meets commercial locational criteria per policy direction under future land use element objective 22. This request is also consistent with the vision of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan, as the proposed development will have to be reviewed by the proper regulatory agencies to ensure the protection of environmental features on the site. And based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you, Ms. Massey. All right, we'll go to the public. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak as a proponent in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Applicant, did you have anything further? No. All right, thank you. That closes the hearing on major modification 22-0686.
The next item is agenda item C1 is rezoning standard 23-0035. The applicant is AMQ International Corp. The request is to rezone from RMC9 with restrictions to RMC9 with restrictions. Ostensibly, the purposes of this modification is to remove a restriction which restricted the maximum number of dwelling units on the property. Chris Grandin-Leonard will provide staff recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
All right, we'll hear from the applicant. It's on, nope, it was. Now it is.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Hearing Officer Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South in St. Petersburg, number 451. As Mr. Grady indicated, this is official rezoning from RMC9 to RMC9. The purpose of it is to remove a restriction that was placed when this originally came through for zoning, which capped it at 36 units. Releasing the cap would put it at 49 units, which is, of course, at the future land use category, within the parameters of the future land use category. There's a couple other conditions that are included in the staff report regarding buffers, which were original part of the presentation and application, and those will remain. The only thing that's changing is that change density. I did check this morning, and there were no posted communications against it. And in regard to noticing, we sent out approximately 26 notices. Haven't heard anything back as well. So both zoning and Planning Commission are in support. So with that, if you have any other comments or questions, then it will respond if there's anything else. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pressman.
Good evening. Chris Grandin-Leonard, Planner with Development Services. Represent application 23-0035. Approximate 5.53 acre vacant parcel is zoned RMC9 restricted, which is residential multifamily conventional restricted. The subject property is located at 1406 South Taylor Road. The area consists of single family and two family residential and commercial. The subject property is designated residential 9 on the future land use map. The applicant is requesting to withdraw the prior approved restriction that limited the site to 36 units under rezoning 13-0695, while the other restrictions will remain. The proposed revised restrictions, I'm not going to go into them they're in the record. They're buffering and screening restrictions, and also an addition of a fence on the third one. Development Services has no objection to the removal of the 36 unit restriction. The Planning Commission concurs with the finding of consistent. The previous rezoning 13-0695 restriction of the density to 36 dwelling units was offered by the applicant to address neighborhood concerns at the time. The future land use Res 9, the future land use of residential 9 and the RMC 9 zoning both permit 9 dwelling units per gross acre. So it'll meet that. The surrounding area to the north is zoned for 2-family and multifamily residential. Also, the remaining restrictions provide additional buffering and screening, in addition to what's already required in the Land Development Code. Based on all that, residential future land use classification, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the RMC 9 restricted district, staff finds the request approvable, subject to the proposed conditions. That concludes my staff report. Glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I have no questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Planning Commission?
Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The subject site is in the residential 9 future land use category. It's in the urban service area and within the limits of the Sefner-Mango community plan. The residential 9 future land use category surrounds the site on all sides. Residential 6 is located further southwest, south, and southeast, and residential 4 extends further northwest and northeast of the subject site. The proposed rezoning would allow consideration of a density increase that would enhance the established neighborhood to the north and northeast, while also providing a transition in land use from the commercial and industrial uses located to the south of the subject site. The rezoning would allow for the development of like uses while incorporating a density increase that is appropriate for the subject site and the surrounding area. Therefore, the proposal meets the intent of the neighborhood protection policies of the future land use element in Objective 16 and the accompanying policies. The proposal would also allow for the consideration of development that relates to the predominant character of the area along South Taylor Road and Dabb Drive, and is therefore consistent with the policy direction provided in the community design component of the future land use element. And finally, the proposed rezoning would allow for the consideration of residential development that is consistent and encouraged by the goals and strategies of the Sefner-Mango community plan. And based on these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the restrictions proposed by the Development Services Department. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll go to the public. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, come forward, please. Be sure and state your name and address.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My name is Grace McComas, and I live at 805 Old Darby Street, Sefton, Florida. To save Mr. Pressman the need to look up how far away I live from Taylor Road, it's 2 miles. So I do not live on Taylor Road. However, the facts of my opposition and your decision affects all similar properties and neighborhoods of the Hillsborough County unincorporated areas. I am here to try to protect anything in Sefner that is unreasonable in an area. I use Highway 92 and MLK. I know the traffic concerns on 92 for this neighborhood and the heavy traffic with the Amazon trucks. We've counted as many as 72 trucks coming out of the warehouse in one stream, blocking traffic at Taylor Road because there is no signalization. The same heavy traffic problems exist for trying to access MLK Boulevard. The zoning hearing master in 2013 recommended denial of the RSC 9 zoning, and the condition of 36 homes was placed. Nothing in this area has changed since then. Mr. Pressman wishes to only remove the restriction of 36 homes for his approval, given in 0695 rezoning. All others would remain, thankfully. My opposition is to allowing the removal of that condition and making a bad situation for this neighborhood worse. He already has zoning for 36 homes. I do know we cannot take that away. At that 2013 hearing, residents from the area poured their hearts out to save Taylor Road. It is still one of the prettiest, tranquil neighborhoods in Sefner. The homes are on very large lots, well set back from the 2-lane substandard road, with no sidewalks, no curbs, no drainage, no lighting. It is suburban in its nature. Although many of these properties have a future land use category much higher, residents do not wish to change the character of the neighborhood. Their arguments were the increased traffic, even with the restriction of 36 homes, increased drainage, and persistent flooding to the neighboring homes. No signalization at either Taylor and Martin Luther King Boulevard or Taylor and Highway 92. An increase in density that is not compatible or consistent or transitional with the neighborhood appearance. There are more, and I am submitting the testimony of Crystal Booth from that hearing, who represented the 50 people that wrote or signed in opposition, and to include all of those concerns as part of my opposition today. Her statements are as valid now as they were in 2013, and all the facts and concerns of residents remains the same today. Unfortunately, they were unsuccessful. There are 2 duplexes across from this planned site, but they each are on large lots separated by a dirt road named Robson Street. Which does maintain the appearance of this neighborhood. The property adjacent to the north is a very large lot with 1 home on the property. The property to the north and east of this site is our DC-12. It has 2-story complexes. However, a big difference is their exit is on Parsons Avenue, a much better improved road with sidewalks, curbs, drainage, lighting, and signalization to the north at 92 and the south Martin Luther King Boulevard to their connecting arterial roads. There is a stub-out road on the west property line of that property to this requesting petition to increase the PD density. My concern is there is no condition to ensure Dab Drive will never be connected to or through this property to Taylor Road. I know the rule states if the project is developed with private roads, no connection is required, but not prohibited. For the sake of the residents on Taylor Road, since the applicant wants to change a condition, is it possible to add a condition of approval to the approved 36 homes that this would never be allowed? The 49 homes would be far more inconsistent, incompatible, and non-transitional than the 36 homes. It is unfortunate you cannot actually see this neighborhood, and most unfortunate that there is no site plans or narrative submitted to show the plans to address the sensitive stormwater requirements or the configuration of either of the plans, 2013 36 homes or the now requested 49 homes. While the Sefner Mango Community Plan supports infill, it is supporting infill that is compatible with the existing uses. 49 homes as multiple duplexes or 2-story homes are not compatible, consistent, or transitional with existing uses. The approved 36 homes we have to live with, but not an increased density. Just because a property has a future land use designation does not mean it has to be used at that designation. In a neighborhood that would not be consistent with, like Taylor Road, and will set the precedent to eventually allow more same non-transitional zonings. The neighborhood would become more unsafe to exit to arterial roads with an increase stated as 95 more trips a day on Taylor Road, probably more. Also, take away the quality of life of families that have lived there for many years. And although some of the properties have changed ownership over the years, the character of these properties have not changed. Just because it looks right on paper and meets the FLU plan does not mean it is right to allow that increased zoning in this neighborhood. If they are ready to build, they have the right now to build 36 homes, but should consider the neighbors' rights and not have 2-story homes where the northern boundary property has their single home. And that property is 1/4 of the size of the property being considered, so it's a good-sized property. Crystal Booth gave her all to try and save this neighborhood unsuccessfully. Fortunately, for almost 10 years, nothing has been constructed. There is no valid reason other than greed to increase the density now and would be even more inconsistent, incompatible, and definitely not transitional by county standards. The reasons for the zoning hearing master to recommend for denial of the RSC 9 in 2013 are the same today. The area and the problems and concerns have not changed one bit since then. My additional small concern is the increase in densities that have been approved all over Seffner and are being questioned like today add up to affect our overcrowded schools. The redistricting of school boundaries being much in the news today will require children to be bused to a different school than the one in their neighborhood, a foolish county expense. Whether Seffner will be affected now, I do not know yet, but the more homes, the more kids, the more overcrowding occurs. We know from the superintendent of schools, no new schools are planned. I am not against a new building in Seffner. As Mr. Pressman knows, and we have spoken briefly about at other hearings, I have not objected to the rezoning requests, his or any land use attorney's request that are consistent with the area in which they are requested. I hope you accept my statement as truth, as I have nothing to gain and a lot to lose if I misrepresent or mislead by any statements I make. We drove down the site to take pictures today to support my statements, and nothing has changed with the surrounding areas since the application approved in 2013 with the 36-home condition. I have them on my phone if you're allowed to look at them. If not, Google Earth pictures of the area posted in 2019 are unchanged today. I hope you can look at them, and I will be allowed to print them for the BOCC hearing. If not, I hope you do look at Google Maps as part of my opposition. Gotta go back. Please recommend denial of this increase or, as stated, the removal of the condition to 36 homes they have received permission for previously, and add the DAB drive restriction as a condition for the Taylor Road residents' safety and protection. Thank you, and thank you for hearing my concerns in opposition, and please forgive my nervousness. Can I give this to you? Any questions from me, ma'am?
No questions for you. I believe you wanted to submit photographs to the record, but you don't have them in a format you could leave them with us in
Correct.
the record. Okay.
That's why I thought
All right.
maybe you could look at the map
Okay.
yourself and see it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I don't hear anyone. Development Services.
I just want to know for the record, we did hand out a revised report, which included school board comments that we received today. So the report reflects the revised new comments from the school board, and available for any other questions.
All right, thank you. I have the revised report. Thank you. Applicant.
Well, the young lady certainly has a lot of passion, and she has a lot to say, and it's very much appreciated, and we respect her coming down. She's a very nice lady, and we're very friendly. I would just emphasize that Transportation Department has no opposition. They've indicated there'll be 6 additional AM peak trips and 7 PM peak trips. We did notice actually 30 nearby residents, and of course with the big yellow sign. As compared to the last hearing from 10 years ago, no one was in opposition, and we didn't see from anyone in opposition. The reality is that there are very intensive uses abutting the site, and it will be a transitional use. The Zoning Department and Planning Commission, of course, have listed numerous and many policies in support, and no agencies are in opposition. So with that, we appreciate you coming down this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pressman. That will close the hearing on rezoning standard 23-0035.
The next item is agenda item C2, rezoning standard 23-0063. The applicant is Todd Pressman. The request is rezoned from commercial neighborhood and RSC 6 to commercial general with restrictions. Isis Brown will provide staff recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
Yes, Mr. Pressman.
Thank you, Hearing Officer. I have a PowerPoint up. Are you able to see that?
I see it, yes.
Okay, great. So this is RZ 23-0063, located northwest Hillsborough County in Thonona-Sassa. You can see the site designated there with the star. And this is, as the property appraiser has it, currently vacant right along Main Street. The issue is rezoning from CN to CGR. The restrictions are a 35-foot landscape buffer along the north, which would be a type B. Additionally, evergreens planted every 10 feet versus every 20 feet. We have restricted uses, which include car wash, self-service laundry, blood plasma donation, emergency room, recreation, outdoor, ambulance, and recycle recovery uses. So the forestation of the rear would be left in place, which is, again, I'm showing an approximate of the 35-foot buffer on the north. Future land use map has everything as R6 in the vicinity. Zoning does carry intensive CG and CN uses along Main Street, as you can see. Some of the CGs on the south are very deep. This site would be a little deeper than what you typically see, which is why we are looking at making restrictions both for buffer and for uses. Looking at the site from the aerial along Main Street, there's clearly intensive uses, strip center, car lot and repair, library, public utility is located right next door with a well-med office on the other side. Across the street is a welding and fabrication use. This is what's located across the street. And then you have these uses on either side. One is a well-med, one is a utility functional office and maintenance of some sort. That is the repair facility, sales and some repair facility on Main Street a little bit further down the road. Zoning staff supports, they address, in terms of our addressing compatibility, that we have proposed specific uses to be prohibited on the site and the enhanced setback and screen that I reviewed. They note the existing CG districts to the west and east, while not at the same depth as the subject parcel, are also located adjacent to existing residential uses along their northern boundaries and do not include provisions for enhanced screening, setback limitations that we're proposing. And with those proposed restrictions, staff did find the proposed zone to be consistent and compatible with the existing zoning development pattern along Main Street. Planning Commission did present quite a few number of policies. What I wanted to mention is in the report, they refer to policy 16.5 that asserts that higher intensity non-residential land uses that are adjacent to established neighborhoods shall be restricted to collectors and arterials, which we are. And as they note, although the proposed zoning resembles similar development patterns directly west and the south of the subject site. Planning Commission staff recognize that policy 9-1.3 encourages new commercial zoning to be located at activity centers such as Main Street Corridor and Thonona-Sassa. So with that, we look very hard and close to the site to make it compatible and make it a use that's similar along Main Street, and we believe that we've done that, and we appreciate your consideration. As well, I checked the file this morning. There were no letters of opposition, and I'm not aware of any phone calls that came through. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pressman. Okay, Development Services.
Good evening, Isis Brown, Hillsborough County Development Services, presenting application 23-0063. The request is for a subject site approximately 1.94 acres to rezone from RSC 6 with a mobile home overlay and commercial neighborhood. Approximately 0.99 acres is currently RSC 6 with the mobile home overlay, and the remaining 0.95 acre is currently CN, commercial neighborhood. The request is to rezone from existing single-family residential RSC 6 and commercial neighborhood zoning districts to the proposed CG with restrictions. The proposed zoning for CG permits development limited to retail uses and personal in freestanding buildings or small shopping centers to serve residential neighborhoods on lots containing a minimum of 7,000 square feet. The applicant proposes restrictions to certain concerns. The site is located in an area comprising of mixed use to include commercial, general and commercial neighborhood and single-family residential uses with mobile home overlay. The parcel is located in the I can never get that right, Tanasasa Main Street Overlay District, and additional requirements per LEC Part 3.118.00 of the Land Development Code. Additionally, the Main Street is designated as a scenic corridor and may trigger additional buffers and tree plantings as required by LDC Part 6.06.3.I. The site does not meet commercial locational criteria. To address the compatibility issues, the applicant has proposed certain restrictions. Based on the restrictions proposed, staff finds the request approvable with the following proposed. Commercial development of the subject parcel shall have include an additional minimum 35 feet thicker buffering in conjunction with the required 20 buffering with type B screenings. And the applicant has offered to do 10 feet apart versus 20 feet apart. And then the subject site shall prohibit the following CG uses: car washes, self-serve laundry, major vehicular repair, blood and plasma donation, freestanding emergency room, 24-hour siren, etc., recreational uses outdoor, ambulance services, and recyclable recovery facilities. I am available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown.
Madam Hearing Officer, before we go to the Planning Commission's presentation, just to clarify for the record, the proposed restriction, because the applicant characterized it as a 35-foot buffer, what actually is proposed is as a 35-foot minimum setback with a 20-foot buffer. So just to want to clarify for the record so that, the buffer will be 20 feet with additional tree plantings within a 20-foot buffer, and then an additional building setback of 35 feet.
Okay, as I'm reading the restriction as it's stated in the staff report, commercial development of the subject property shall include additional setbacks, minimum of 35 feet. So that's a building setback.
Yes.
Correct? And a
Correct.
thicker buffering.
Which consists of, as outlined in his restriction, is the additional tree plantings.
Okay.
Yep.
So the thicker buffering then refers to the 10 feet apart versus 20 feet apart?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And what would the setback, the building setback ordinarily be?
It could be to that 20-foot buffer line.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So we have a 20-foot buffer and an additional 35 feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much for clarifying that. All right, Planning Commission.
Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The subject site is in the Residential 6 future land use category. It's in the rural area and located within the limits of the Thonatasassa Community Plan. Residential 6 surrounds the subject site on all sides, and the Residential 1 future land use category extends further northeast and southeast of the site. As mentioned, it's in the rural area where, according to Objective 4, the future land use element, rural residential uses can exist without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. The proposed request is inconsistent with this policy direction, as the proposed rezoning would allow for commercial encroachment into the single-family residential uses located directly northwest and north of the subject site. The proposed rezoning does not meet the intent of future land use element Objective 16 and future land use element policies 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, and 16.5 that require proposed uses to meet the intent of the Residential 6 future land use category. Although the applicant has proposed a 35-foot, this says landscape buffer, but now I understand it's a setback on the north side of the parcel, The proposed rezoning to CGR would still foster compatibility conflicts with the single-family residential uses that are located directly northwest and north of the subject site. The restricted uses would still allow for a range of activities that would not allow gradual transition of intensity between the subject site and the parcels to the north and northwest. The current zoning pattern of the subject site provides adequate transition of intensity. Furthermore, the subject site does not meet commercial locational criteria as defined in future land use element objective 22. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the waiver request. Commercial general uses are subject to commercial locational criteria regardless of the applicant's interpretation of the intended uses and benefits. The locational criteria outlined in policy 22.2 are not the only factors to be considered for approval of a neighborhood commercial use. And finally, the Zonata Community Plan also seeks to designate Main Street as a central gathering place and focal point of commercial and community activity. The current zoning pattern on the site meets the intent of this policy direction already on a scale that is appropriate for the overall character of the community. And a rezoning to CGR would allow for a range of uses that would conflict with this goal and is therefore not consistent with the community plan. And based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the public. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay. Applicant, anything further?
Thank you. I do appreciate Mr. Grady's clarification, but I think what we will see there is that rear area is heavily forested. It would be very counterintuitive to take that down to the 20-foot and put up 10-foot evergreen trees. So I think every expectation is that the area will just remain a thick forestation, a 35-foot area.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This will close the hearing then on rezoning standard 23-0063.
The next item is agenda item D1, is application RZ PD 22-0856. The applicant is Mark Bentley. The request is to rezone two planned developments to exist in a new planned development. Sam Ball with county staff will provide staff recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
Good evening, Ms. Hatley. My name is Mark Bentley, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa, 33602, representing the applicants. I've got a composite exhibit I'd like to go through during the course of our presentation. May I approach you?
Certainly, thank you.
As you can see on the Elmo, the subject property is highlighted in hatch mark. It's roughly 9.17 acres. Recently, the majority of the property underwent a comprehensive plan map amendment change from R9 to UMU 20. And the intent of the PD rezoning is to integrate multiple approvals and also introduce an additional land use that would be air-conditioned storage. We have letters of support that I'll go over later on. One of them is from Big Cat Rescue, which is located directly east of the subject property. Thought I'd point that out. And just for the sake of brevity, what I like to do now is just turn it over to the Director of Planning for our law firm. It's Mr. Ryan Manassi. Ryan's going to go over some of the planning issues, the site plan, and then I'll just wrap it up. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ryan Manassi with Johnson Pope, 401 East Jackson Street, Suite 3100. I'll go go ahead and change the slide to the site plan. So the proposed request is generally located at Citrus Park Drive and Citrus Park Lane. The PD, again, is roughly around 9.17 acres, and it's currently zoned through multiple rezonings, and I'll get into that here very shortly. The area is made up primarily large-scale commercial, office, medical office uses, and Citrus Park Mall is adjacent to the subject site, and the parcels are within the urban service area. Now, starting at the top, and this is just to explain some of those currently approved plan developments that are on the site. At the very top, you're going to see the PD 89-0111, and then PD 08-0087 going south. And also, you can see on the screen, most of this area that I'm going to be showing you is already developed with certain uses that are from these previous approvals. Just to reference the PRS 13-0456, in reviewing those documents, it was mainly for the cross-access between the sites in 2013 and another rezoning that's further south. So moving south, and I didn't want to cram it on one page, so I separated it for you. You'll see to the south here is just to the south of, of the office building, and then going further, it's going to be parcel C, which is on that left side of the screen, and those are through that same rezonings. Adjacent to our subject request is that hotel on the bottom of your screen with the associated surface parking lot. So to further explain the site layout, I've color-coded the parcels, which are identified as parcels A, B, and C. And as annotated on your site plan as well, parcel A, which on screen is blue, that's existing, and it included uses such as hotel with the ancillary commercial, business, and BPO and retail uses. Parcel B is highlighted in that orange, and again, that's existing, and that's Easy Street. And then parcel C is highlighted in that green color, and again, it's existing, and that's for a stormwater pond as well as common area and open space. Again, existing uses from the mixture of rezonings that we're combining into this mixed-use development. Now, the last parcel, parcel D, is in that yellow color, and that's mainly the new proposed development that we're presenting here tonight, and that's for this mini warehouse self-storage use. So this request combines the different PDs into this one mixed-use development. Additionally, the Planning Commission and BOCC approved a comprehensive plan amendment for parts of this area which had numerous flexes into one combined UMU 20 future land use category. Also, we are flexing a small portion over the existing office located on parcel A, and the flu category for that existing office building is the Res 9, and again, is currently flexed in its approval, and we're just memorializing it with this PD rezoning.
Okay, can you stop just a second and back up to that one? Yes, let me just make sure I understand the proposal. Okay, so there's an existing roadway, that's Easy Street. C is the retention area, intended to be the retention area, or is it?
It
already
is, it's built and functioning.
A is an already developed parcel. D is not developed yet, but it's intended for storage, is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, and so then these are, I guess, A, B, and C are part of PD's
08.
existing PDs, and you're combining them into one.
Correct.
With D.
And actually, D is, again, it's an existing PD as well as for an office use.
Okay.
It's like a 1989 rezoning.
Okay. All right. I think I follow you so far. Thank you.
Excellent. Just one point, just to make sure you're following on this part, is although this is Easy Street, it's not the access for the property. So we're going to, and you'll see further down on my presentation, we use Citrus Park Lane, which is, located right around there.
Okay.
I'll show you here in a sec. So the existing cross-access for parcel A, B, and C are to remain as previously approved, and the new development on parcel D proposes cross-access to the McDonald's to the north, and that's shown in these highlighted yellows. So again, these are the existing cross-access, and then the newly proposed cross-access here. The red arrow is it's depicting existing access to McDonald's, and I'll explain this on the next slide too. That wasn't the slide. I wanted 2 sheets. So representatives from McDonald's property requested that we add ingress and egress arrow depicting the existing access for the built McDonald's, which is north of our subject request. We did discuss this with staff and propose the ingress egress arrow addition be added to the site plan before certification should this be approved. And that's just merely highlighted here in that yellow, or I'm sorry, green box, and then the cross access arrow showing that existing access.
Okay.
Through the review, it was found that some improvements to Citrus Park Drive were required, a condition stating that prior to or concurrent with the development of Parcel D, the westbound to southbound left turn lane at the intersection of Citrus Park Drive and Citrus Park Lane shall be extended to a total length of 350 feet. And that's at the sole expense of the developer of Parcel D, which is that new mini storage proposed use. This condition is part of the approval conditions should this pass here tonight or in your determination. And now just to discuss the variations, and what I did here was the first slide, just again, that Parcel C, which is outlined in green, and then that yellow outline is the west and south boundary. So the variation request is to reduce the required landscape buffer on the south and west boundary of the Parcel C. And that's to allow this existing and legally permitted stormwater pond to remain in its built configuration. Again, this parcel is developed to the currently approved PD construction plans and is serving its intended use of stormwater retention in open space. Modifying this Parcel C at this point could cause detrimental impacts to the existing built environment. Also, the previous approvals did not have staff objections to the design of Parcel C and were subsequently approved. Due to Parcel C's limited uses, which are the stormwater pond and common area open space, staff found the nature of the designated uses on Parcel C to provide adequate screening between the existing and proposed uses from neighboring properties. All other buffering and screening for this request will be in accordance with the Land Development Code. And the next 2 pictures are just some current pictures of that Parcel C, and this is southwest. As you can see, it's highly vegetated. There's actually a built-up burn for that stormwater retention pond as well. And this is just a view south of that. I just wanted to show you. So here is just some visuals. Citrus Park Drive looking south along Citrus Park Lane. So you'll have the Upper Tampa Bay Trail to the east, which is that left side, and then McDonald's to the west, which is the right side of your screen. And again, the trail to the east and west is the proposed site location for the mini warehouse self-storage. You'll notice additional screening along the east and the sidewalks along the west. So Citrus Park Lane actually becomes a private road, but it is developed and with screening and sidewalks going and continuing south. You'll notice the existing office building on the east side of the screen. Again, I'm sorry, the right side of your screen with surface parking. And then further south, you'll see the existing hotel, which is not part of our request, but I just wanted to show you this built environment. But it is, again, it is existing, and you can see that screening along with the sidewalks continue along South Citrus Park Lane. And then this is just the termination of Citrus Park Lane at the very southern portion of it. The request includes multiple rezonings into one mixed-use project, which is in harmony with the approved UMU 20 Comprehensive Plan Amendment that we recently went through. Additionally, Development Services has found the request approvable subject to the conditions, and the Planning Commission found the proposed development would allow for a mix of uses that would facilitate growth within the urban service area. Also, it supports the vision of the Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan. This request is consistent with numerous goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, and the uses are comparable and compatible with the surrounding built environment and within character of the neighborhood. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions should you have any, and I'll turn it back over to Mark.
All right, thank you. No questions for you.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ryan. Ms. Hatley, we have provided you with letters in support. There are no agency objections, and the clients agree to all proposed conditions by Development Services. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
No questions. Thank you so much. All right, develop. And be sure and sign in with the clerk's office. Development Services.
Good evening, Sam Ball of Hillsborough County Development Services. The applicant is requesting to rezone 8 parcels from PD 89-0111 and PD 080087 in order to allow for the development of a 103,000 square foot storage facility. The property fronts a commercial corridor along the south side of Citrus Park Drive and is located approximately 750 feet west of the Gun Highway and Veterans Expressway intersection. It's also within the urban service area and the Northwest Hillsborough community planning area. The subject property covers a total of 9.17 acres and is currently developed for office, parking, stormwater, and a private right-of-way. The surrounding development pattern consists of large-scale commercial, office, and medical office, and a wildlife preserve. The subject property is southeast of Citrus Park Mall and is adjacent to the upper Tampa Bay Trail to the east. The PD to the south is allowed to have an FAR of 0.8 and is developed for hotel use. The commercial plan development to the west is allowed to have a floor area ratio of 0.75 and is developed for strip retail with retail out parcels. The applicant is requesting a variation to LDC 60600 to reduce the required landscape buffer on the south and west boundaries of parcel C from the required 20-foot buffer to 0. The majority of parcel C is used for a permitted storm pond. If PD 220856 is approved, parcel D would be allowed to be developed with up to 103,000 square feet of mini warehouse space. The mini warehouse building would be limited to 60 feet tall and a maximum building coverage of 50% would be limited. Development on parcel A would be allowed up to an existing and combined total of 283,377 square feet of gross floor area. Allowable uses would include a hotel, ancillary commercial, business, professional office, and retail. The current office and parking structure would also remain as permitted uses. Building height would be limited to 100 feet up to 8 stories, and building coverage would not be allowed to exceed 50%. Restricted uses would include a standalone convenience store, standalone fast food restaurants, and standalone banks. Parcel B would remain to be a private road, and parcel C would continue to function as a stormwater pond. Because parcel C is limited to a stormwater pond and common area open space, staff finds that the nature of the designated use on parcel C provides adequate screening between the primary existing and proposed uses from the neighboring properties. Based on the existing conditions within the proposed PD, the surrounding zoning and existing development pattern areas, staff finds the proposed plan development compatible with existing uses and recommends approval with subject to conditions. That concludes my presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Hey, thank you.
Planning Commission.
This is Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the urban mixed-use 20 and residential 9 future land use categories. It's in the urban service area and located within the limits of the Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan. The subject site is surrounded by residential 9 to the east and south. To the west is designated as urban mixed-use 20, and to the north is north across Citrus Park Drive is designated as Citrus Park Village. The proposal is consistent with policies 7.3 and 7.4 of the future land use element as it furthers the intent of the urban mixed-use 20 category and the development intended for it and surrounding it. The overall development, the proposal is within the allowable 1.0 FAR intended for the urban mixed-use 20 category. The proposal is consistent with the Objective 16 and its accompanying policies relating to neighborhood protection. The subject site is bordered by the upper Tampa Bay Trail and Veterans Expressway to the east and acts as a buffer from the residential neighborhoods Furthermore, the stormwater ponds are proposed throughout the site, providing a buffer from the adjacent properties. The proposed planned development is within the limits of the Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan. The Northwest Hillsborough Community Plan seeks mixed-use neighborhoods that are pedestrian-friendly and offer a variety of housing types while maintaining property values and the structure of existing neighborhoods. The planned development proposal meets the intent of the community plan by proposing a mix of uses, a sidewalk along the site's frontage, and pedestrian benches. And based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
I said I'm in support of the application. My name is Nicole Neugebauer. I'm a representative of McDonald's. We just wanted to submit our letter of no objection into the record for your review.
All right, and please state your name and your address again, please.
Nicole Neugebauer, 401 East Jackson Street, Suite 2100.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so that was in support. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Applicant, anything further?
No, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. That will close the hearing on rezoning PD 22-0856.
The next item is agenda item D2, major mod application 22-1086. The applicant is M&T Asset Management LLC. The request is for a major modification of existing plan development. Tim Lampkin will provide staff recommendation under presentation by the applicant.
Good evening, Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700. Good evening. Although this is called a major modification, we are also really just making a small modification to this project, but when you change a use of a approved use, it becomes a major modification. Just a quick aerial, I'm going to give you a little history here. This is actually an image from a 2017 staff report. And at that time, you can see the PD, there was a PD that had both a animal hospital and a kennel. And in 2017, that was rezoned to form a new PD, which is the PD that we're modifying, that allowed for a community residential home in that existing structure, as well as a second phase of development for another community residential home or 2 single-family lots. This case is subject to code enforcement. M&T Asset Management purchased the property. They were not clear on the zoning. They were operating an office out of that property, and they were cited for code enforcement. And so the purpose of this amendment is to bring them into compliance with code enforcement and allow for an office and a residential use to allow them to live on site, essentially operating a home business. And then with that, I'd like to have John LaRocca, our planning consultant, to come up and give his planning presentation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Cami. I'm John LaRocca, Murphy LaRocca Consulting Group, 3225 South McDill Avenue, Tampa, 33629. I'll make a relatively brief presentation. Obviously, you have the Planning Commission and Development Services Department staff recommendation, and I won't repeat much what will be presented this evening. But this request, as Cami indicated, is a modification to the existing PD zoning that was approved in 2017. Applicant being M&T Asset Management, the zoning being modified as PD 17-0625 in the Egypt Lake area, as that neighborhood or that broad area is identified. The property is located on a 1.41 acre parcel in an area of mixed land uses and zoning within the future land use designated area of office commercial. It's accessible through Duque Lane, a private access road approximately 300 feet west of Del Mabry Highway and south of Humphrey Street, generally located north of Waters. The major intersection is Waters and Del Mabry Highway. Notice of violation case was issued for the site regarding the operation of the office within the building that was at one point a kennel for the veterinary operation that existed on the entire zoning lot, if you will. The applicant is seeking to modify the current PD zoning that currently permits a community residential home type C with a maximum of 64 placed residents that could be developed in 2 phases. That's the existing zoning. And what we're proposing for the applicant is to eliminate phase 1, the community residential home type C, limited to the 24 placed residents, and replace within that existing building with no alterations to the perimeter or size of that building with a mixed-use residential dwelling unit and office within that current structure. There are no changes proposed to the currently designated uses allowed within phase 2 component of the site. The uses proposed in phase 1 will be located within the 5,098 square foot component or building existing on the site in a mixed-use configuration as depicted on the revised site plan. There's no plan to increase the building size. The building's configuration and architectural appearance will not be changed. It will remain in a residential architecture character. The phase 1 office component within that same building will not exceed a maximum of 2,902 square feet. The remainder of the building will be utilized as that one residential unit not to exceed 2,196 square feet. That specific square footage allocation was to analyze land use and FAR ratios and to look at traffic impact of what this proposal make and create. There's no change proposed to phase 2 as I'd indicated. If a phase 2 is developed, uses are a community residential home limited to a maximum of 40 placed residents or, and that's a big or, 2 single-family lots. Should the 2 residential lots be developed as phase 2, RSC 9 zoning district standards shall apply to such single-family residential development. The existing zoning 170625 was granted 3 waivers at the time when approved in 2017 regarding landscape buffering, fences and walls, and the distance requirements for community residential homes having to be no closer than 500 feet to a single-family residential zoning or other community residential homes. The waivers remain in the proposed conditions, specifically to the buffers, landscaping, and walls. We've indicated more specifically, and it was referred to in the previous approval, but very specifically this time, we've specifically asked for a waiver for community residential homes and a waiver of section 6.11.28 of the Land Development Code to formally allow a community residential home within 500 feet of single-family residential zoning and other community residential homes. This is a very unique site location in terms of accessibility and the character of the neighborhood. It is unique, and those conditions justify the waiver. You'll see more detail in your report. The proposed modification will not change the character of the area nor create any additional traffic impacts. The proposed land uses for this modification will result in a daily reduction of daily trips, no change to the peak hour trips, and a negligible increase of 2 trips to the AM peak hour as compared to the existing approved entitlements. The current future Hillsborough land use plan map designation is office commercial 20. Typical uses describing the OC 20 designation include community, commercial type uses, office uses, mixed use developments, and compatible residential uses. The site plan reflects current conditions and existing parameters for height, setbacks, and building for the phase 1 building and parcel. Phase 1 off-street parking spaces, including ADA compliant space and direct access to the building, is compliant with current LDC standards on the site plan. There are 11 spaces are required and they're provided. Proposed changes to currently approved final conditions of approval are included with the additional revised information agreed to by the applicant as noted in the Development Services report. In summary, the modification to the existing PD transitioning to residence office from a proposed first phase community residential home is a less intense proposal and more compatible from an impact standpoint to the uses in the area. Any waivers previously approved and currently being requested as justifiable are due to the unique characteristics of the area. Again, the code violation that was referred to, and that is referred to in the report, and as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, this rezoning application or modification will mitigate that particular violation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. LaRocca. I guess I'm just let me clarify and make sure I understand the request.
Sure.
So as currently approved, this PD would allow up to 24 placed residents in a community residential home now in phase 1, and then in a phase 2 up to 40. So that's a total eventually of 64 was contemplated at some point.
Right.
And was a waiver granted at that time? Did you say a waiver was granted at that time from the distance?
Yes.
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 Okay. And then this request is to modify that, essentially the phase 1 to eliminate the 24 placed residents in phase 1 and replace it with a residential dwelling and office, which is currently in use. Is that correct?
That is correct, the office, yes.
And so phase 2 then is not being affected, it'll remain the same?
Correct.
And is the land use hearing officer or the zoning hearing master requested at this time also to address the waiver again?
Yes.
Okay.
And staff will explain that.
Okay.
We made that very clear, and we agreed to give that justification in our application.
All right. Then that clarifies that for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for your questions. Cami Corbett again. And other than the change to the use, the only other changes we're making are through the transportation conditions, which bring us up to how we do transportation conditions today. We always had a cross arrow with the other adjacent parcel on the PD plan, but this very specifically has a condition relating to cross access for that parcel, and also has a provision that should phase 2 develop, there will be improvements that will be required to Ladue Lane, and then also if there are any alterations to the existing building or expansion of the existing building. But otherwise, since we're not otherwise changing the footprint of the building, we're not proposing any additional changes with respect to that. And just want to say for members of the public, the scope of this hearing is the land use change that we're discussing, not any code enforcement matters or any matters that might be related to a dispute between the parties, and that the scope of this hearing this evening is very limited. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you. All right, Development Services.
Good evening, Tim Lampkin, Hillsborough County Development Services. The applicant did a very thorough job, so I'm going to be somewhat brief. The applicant's seeking a major modification of existing plan development. It's PD 17-0625. This modification to the PD includes 1.4 acre parcel. The modification proposes to eliminate the 24 place residence community residential home and replace it with a residential dwelling unit and office during phase 1 that are currently in existence. The applicant proposes no change to phase 2, which is currently approved for a 40 place community residential home or 2 conventional single family residences, which is what phase 2 is approved for now. I'm not going to go into the NOV. The request to modify is essentially to remove the community residential home entitlements from the phase 1 development pod and replace it with a professional services office and a single family residential unit. In addition to the above, the applicant was talking about the requirement to go through again because when the case is reopened, the special use, it's been 5 years and it's required to then be looked at and reapproved. The site is located within 500 feet of an RSC 6 zoning to the west and the south. Per LDC section 6.11.26, it requires that no community residential home type B or C shall be located within a radius of 500 feet. The applicant is requesting a waiver, which had been previously approved, but needs to be approved again to meet this requirement, and has provided justification. Staff notes that the waiver for the community residential home was previously approved on was previously waived, PD 17-0625, and was approved. As a new application, it is required to be requested again. In the applicant's justification, they do note that the proposed home had been previously been granted a waiver for a 64-unit community residential home, and now they're requesting a reduction of 24, equating to a 40-bed community residential home, and completely removing it from Phase 1. Per the DRPM, transportation shows that the project generates fewer than 50 peak hour trips, and therefore no detailed transportation analysis was required to process the rezoning. The Planning Commission found that the proposal is consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan based on the aforementioned and found in the report and applicant's supporting materials. Staff finds the request approvable, unless you have any questions.
Just one. So the section of the Land Development Code then that applies to a community residential home, that's section 6.11.28, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then under subsection A, and I'm just going from my notes here, I'm not looking at the code actually, but the land use hearing officer can waive that requirement in cases that require special use approval.
That is correct.
So this is not a special use approval process, but is this just incorporated into the PD modification process?
That is accurate.
Where we
yes.
are? Okay. All right. That's all my questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Planning Commission?
This is Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The project is located in the Office Commercial 20 Future Land Use category. It's in the urban service area and not located within the limits of a community plan. The subject site is surrounded by the Office Commercial 20 to the south, east, and west. To the north, across West Humphrey Street, is Residential 20, and further west of the site is Residential 12. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of Objective 16 and its accompanying policies relating to neighborhood protection. The proposed major modification allows for neighborhood-scale commercial development. It's located in the Office Commercial 20 Future Land Use category and is not subject to Objective 22 relating to commercial locational criteria. Furthermore, in accordance with the intent of Goal 9 of the community design component, strip commercial development for neighborhood-serving uses is discouraged. The proposed application will introduce residential support, and office uses to the area and will not add additional strip commercial uses to the area. And based on these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right. Applicant, anything further?
Cami Corbett again for the record. I do have a series of graphics that I'm going to submit into the record. They're mostly isolated aerials from the 2017 staff report. They were just really clear in the graphics, so I thought I'd provide that and also provide you with that staff report from 2017 to incorporate it into the record, as well as Mr. LaRocca's written justification, which I know you can find in the record, but hopefully to make it a little bit easier, make it part of the hearing exhibits.
All right, wonderful, thank you. All right, this will close the hearing on major modification 22-1086.
The next item is agenda item D3, major mod application 22-1126. The applicant's Wallace Properties 1 Incorporated. The request is for a major modification to existing plan development. Michelle Heinrich with county staff will provide staff recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
Good evening, hearing officer Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg, Florida. This is MM 2216. This is located in the northeast area of the county, somewhat near the Mango-Seffner area, located on Highway 92 near the intersection of I-4 and I-275. The issue is a major modification for a multi-vehicle type use. It was originally approved in 2015. It was modified in 2017. And at that time, Development Services, Planning Commission, and the Zoning Hearing Master all approved. So on East Highway 92, which I would describe as extremely intensive, this is the site. As you can see, there's quite a bit of activity on it. The current long-time approved uses are sales, rental, service of domestic vehicles, farm and recreational vehicles, minor, major vehicle repair, vehicle parts sales, vehicle recycling, which is open vehicle recycling. There is no specific compacting of vehicles, and related office use. Per the Planning Commission, the proposed PUs today are the same as approved in 2017. What we're proposing are changes on the site plan, locational elements, and buffer changes. So the uses remain the same, but we're, in a sense, expanding a lot of the uses and modifying them, moving around a little bit. I will say that the staff has done an outstanding job on one of the opening pages of the very specific changes, which are a lot, and they're kind of detailed and kind of unique, or kind of specific as you look at each item. But they also did a really great graphic, which I have here, which they note the parking office area, which is existing and approved, and the proposed layout. Probably the most looked at is the vehicle recycling sales storage, which would shift from this red area to this red area. Can you see my cursor? Yeah.
I don't see your cursor, but I do see the...
Those changes.
Yes, I can see the difference in the sizes of the colored areas, yes.
Okay, good. So, like I said, I think they did a really nice graphic showing that and how it works and what's proposed, because there are a lot of very specific, minute changes going on. Primarily, what I'm trying to show you is on the east setback, we're reducing from 88 to 30 feet, south setback 110 to 91 to 93. It kind of shifts a little bit. And the west setback, 30 feet, which is actually a little bit bigger, 34 to 46 feet. The reason I'm putting emphasis on the east and the south is because, not speaking for the staffs, of course, but the major concern about the Planning Commission and the zoning staff is impacts onto residential, which is existing across McLeod Avenue and Old Hillsborough to the east and south. So we're proposing to bring those uses closer, which is their main point of concerns and compatibility. So looking at zoning, the site is that PD. Clearly, you can see there's very intensive uses, which are very deep from East Hillsborough Avenue, which includes CG, CIs, manufacturings. And I think it's very critical to highlight that the entire south side in this area of Hillsborough is UMU 20, which includes the residential abutting and the site, and CMU 12 to the north. So future land use very clearly stakes out in a very intensive category what the future land use category is. UMU 20 is regional commercial, light industrial, multi-purpose. CMU 12, which is cross street, community retail, commercial, and light industrial. So looking specifically at those buffer changes, on the south, the forestation that's been there for a long time, that remains. There's already an existing metal fence, which we're asking for approval to be permitted to continue on the south. And then, of course, you have the roadway here. So to make emphasis again, the fencing is metal, which is not in the current allowable uses or allowable buffer. It's supposed to be a solid fence, or I believe a wall. And that's one element we want to keep. One reason for that is that these type of sites are really preyed upon for stealing of parts and materials. The metal fence does give a better buffer or better standard to try and keep that under a little better control. The west buffer is an intensive use next door, just about as intensive as this is, but I have it measured from property line to property line at 144 feet. There's a pond. It's a very intensive forestation area on the west, which I wanted to point out to you. Now, on the east buffer, which residential is abutting, this is McLeod. McLeod is on your right. Again, a metal fence is existing, but I wanted to point out again the forestation remains, which is many, many times more than what code would require. That's proposed to remain as is. So points in support, again, future land use, the regional commercial is very intensive, and that includes McLeod Drive. There's been intensive activity here since 1999, just per an aerial. Again, the site was approved 2015 for the intensive uses that are there now. And these are some past aerial pictures. This is the south, the existing conditions, which is very thick, very high, provides a great buffer on the south. And this is, again, on the east, just to show, again, the intensity of buffering that's there. This is, again, on the east, and this is further on the east. Now, along the north, there's a lot of good buffering as well. Depending upon as you travel past the site, this particular area has some specific, more intensive. You can see a driveway there along the north, which is Highway 92. I have from property line to property line on the east is 70 feet. We'd be providing the 30-foot buffer. You have the street and the forestation, of course, and the metal fence. On the south, I have the measurement from property line to property line at 140 feet with a stormwater pond, forestation, metal fence, and again, the street. On the north, I have it as 135 feet from the edge of paving to the office with the forestation I showed you and the metal fence as well. Zoning staff notes it's their position that a more attractive type of screening, which is required for in the Land Development Code, would be provided. We would disagree with that. We would indicate that what's existing is a really good buffer. Screening shall be provided and consist of which would be a 6-foot high masonry wall or fence, solid wood fence, or evergreen shrubs. Planning Commission notes the uses are within character of the area as is located on a principal arterial roadway with similar commercial uses along the corridor, strictly in regard to the corridor. In regard to the Sefner Mango Community Plan, they recognize the commercial character of US 92 within the USA. I think that's an important element or policy that's stated, noting and recognizing the commercial character of US 92, and that commercial development should be directed to US 92 and Martin Luther King Boulevards, which of course we're on. Now, I think most critically, recognizing that the staffs had concerns, and I think it's a reasonable concern, of course, regarding neighbors. The applicant did spend a lot of time going door to door, and I'll submit these petitions into the record. We thought it was very important to bring forward. What we found was great support for the changes. So these are the petitions that I'll put in the record for you and different parts of them. And I put that on an aerial. So I think it's critical to note that according to the petitions the applicant collected, virtually every abutting neighbor except one at the bottom there, which they weren't able to contact, we don't have opposition that supports this request. The applicant owns and operates the property at the upper right hand. So in regard to the critical concerns from the staffs, we wanted to really come forward and present how the neighbors felt for compatibility and for cohesion. And I asked the applicant why, I asked him why because I was curious as to why they had such outstanding support. He just indicated that they work with the neighbors a lot. They're real careful about being loud with uses. They run it, try it really responsibly. They own some other parcels for similar use in the immediate area. And as far as we're aware, there's never been a complaint filed. There's no code enforcement citations, but no complaints from the public that have been submitted or made aware of that we're aware of. So I do want to put those in the record along with a set of conditions because staff is not presenting conditions. So we have a set of conditions to present as well. With that, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just one, Mr. Pressman, and you, I believe, showed a graphic that that was the approved site plan, and it's in the staff report. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it in the staff report.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking at that approved site plan and also the existing aerial view from the property appraiser's website, which is really on the front page of the staff report as well. And they don't seem consistent. It appears, and maybe you can clarify this, that the use of the site right now is basically what the major modification will do, or it seems that maybe the owner has made changes on the use on the site right now and has prepared a site plan consistent with what's going on there now. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, in regard to that is correct. I think with the use of this nature, as you have large crews working, I think it's easy. I'm not saying it's correct, but I think it's difficult sometimes to maintain specific boundaries when you're real busy and you're overwhelmed with vehicles, and they are sometimes overwhelmed with vehicles. So your observation is exactly correct. I would also really mention that I think they have the test of time here because they have been operating in other areas of the property outside the original site plan, and that's been for evidently some time. That has not generated complaints or any concerns from neighbors as we've been able to present it. So yes, you're correct, as well as the office structure was put in larger than what the original approval was, not by a lot, but we're seeking to correct that as well. So your observations are correct.
So does I guess the business, the operation just needs more space? That's essentially what this is accommodating, right? Is that?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
As they've operated over time, businesses, I think it's fair to say businesses sort of change and morph, and they start working a lot more in another direction. That's where business comes in. So yes, that's the case.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Pressman. No more questions right now. Development Services.
Good evening, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As you heard, this is a request to modify PD 15-1034, as most recently modified by Major Mod 170762. And as you saw, the PD is currently approved for a variety of uses, which would be considered general intensive commercial uses. And Mr. Pressman already gave you the specific uses, so I won't reiterate that. That's approved on the site. The property, as you saw, is uniquely situated. It is located on US Highway 92, which you saw also contains some other intensive uses. However, this site is also adjacent to single-family residential to the south and southeast. Therefore, compatibility has been a significant factor in both the previous and current modification requests. And I'll put up the graphic that we were utilizing before. Let me fold it so it doesn't take up the mirror. And this is found in our staff report. Under major modification 170762, which is on the left, the northeastern portion of the site was designated as a sales area, and the remaining area along the north was the sales office. The open vehicle recycling was located on the remaining portions of the site, with significant separation from the residential to the south and southeast, and code required screening was required in the conditions of approval. On the right, you'll see the proposed modifications, and that involves relocating the uses and expanding the open vehicular recycling area to the south and southeast, and additionally 2 PD variations are requested. Oh, I should also say along the north as well, up in that area. The proposed layout, as I stated, will remove the sales area and enlarge the open vehicle recycling area. The office square footage will increase and an enclosed vehicle parts building is added. The open vehicle recycling area, as noted, expands to the north, south, and east. And the setbacks vary greatly between the two site plans. The southern setback decreases from between 110 to approximately 180 feet, down to 91 to 93 feet. And the eastern setback, which was originally 88 to about 145 feet, will go down to 30 feet. And the proposed screening along these two boundaries is proposed, which is not compliant with the LDC required screening options. The first PD variation is for the screening that's required when open storage is in view from a street. And the screening is supposed to be provided using either a 6-foot-high masonry wall, PVC fence, wooden fence, or dense shrubbery. This site abuts US 92 to the north, McLeod Drive to the east, and Old Hillsborough Avenue / Tanner Street to the south. And the applicant proposes to screen the site from these roadways with a 6-foot-high metal fence with the existing vegetation. Staff does not support this request, as the purpose of the screening materials is to provide an attractive streetscape. And staff's review finds that US 92 is not developed solely with intensive commercial uses and provides a common transportation route for many in the Seffner-Mango community. McLeod Drive is used primarily by residential properties, and Old Hillsborough Avenue is used solely by residential properties as well. And also to note, the residential uses on both McLeod and Old Hillsborough are oriented towards the site. The second PD variation is for open storage screening when in view from a residential district. I already noted the screening options that are required, which are limited to the wall fence, PVC fence, or shrubbery. And the applicant proposes a 6-foot-high metal fence with the existing vegetation in view of these residential properties. The allowed screening options consist of those typically found in a residential setting and does not include a metal fence option. Additionally, the proposed screening does not compensate or provide further screening enhancement due to the reduced setbacks from the vehicle expansion. Therefore, staff does not support that PD variation request or the previous one. So overall, staff feels this expansion is incompatible with the adjacent residential uses and does not support the PD variations. Additionally, finding inconsistency from the Planning Commission was filed, and based on these factors, we are not supportive of this request. I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, Planning Commission?
Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. Excuse me. The subject site is in the Urban Mixed Use 20 Future Land Use category. It's in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Seffner-Mango Community Plan. The Urban Mixed Use 20 Future Land Use category is located to the east, west, south, southeast, and southwest of the subject property. The Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category is located to the north, northwest, and northeast of the subject property. The proposed uses are within the character of the area, as it is located on a principal arterial roadway with the similar commercial uses along the corridor. However, Objective 16 and Policy 16.2 of the Future Land Use element indicate a need for neighborhood protection by the gradual transition of intensities between different land uses using professional site planning, buffering, and screening techniques and control of specific land uses. The proposed rezoning does not meet the intent of these policies, as it reduces the buffer between the auto recycling and auto storage and the single-family residential to the east and south. The subject property is within the Seffner-Mango Community Plan, and Goal 2 of this plan indicates a need to enhance the community character and ensure quality residential and non-residential development. Planning Commission staff conducted a routine visit to the site and has observed that to the east and south of the subject site it has a residential character. As previously mentioned, the proposed plan development is not consistent with the Neighborhood Protection Objective 16 and Policy 16.2, as the applicant is proposing to reduce the eastern and southern buffers. Planning Commission staff finds the current request for the reduction of buffers inconsistent with Goal 2 of the Seffner-Mango Community Plan. And based on these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right.
I believe we have a James Thomas. I'm not sure if he's with the applicant or in support. Hello, my name's Jim Thomas. I'm with McNeil Engineering. I'm in support of this project. A couple things to note that I think is kind of important is that on the original site construction plan and approved PD, there was a phase 2 with a driveway to McLeod Drive that we have removed. And I think that keeps a little bit of separation from the single family residence. And also just to note, there's been a lot of talks on the reduced buffers, but on the approved PD plan, the buffer hasn't changed. The open space has changed, but the 30-foot buffer is still on the east and extends all the way to US 92. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Madam Hearing Master, may I have the speaker state the address, please?
All right. Mr. Thomas, are you still online? Could you please state your address for the record?
15957 North Florida Avenue.
All right. Thank you. Clerk, does that give you what you need? All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Do not hear anyone. All right, Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
And applicant, anything further?
I'd just like to add that we did send out 26 notices, actually a number of times throughout the community, and big yellow signs out there for quite a long time. I do want to say that Michelle has been a tremendous help. This was a very tough one to get here today, and her help and her assistance and direction, although she held our feet to the fire, she was a huge help, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. This closes the hearing on major modification 22-1126.
The next item is agenda item D4, major mod application 22-1340. The applicant is Arcade Development Partners LLC. The request is for a major modification to existing plan development. Sam Ball will provide staff recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
Good evening. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. Madam Hearing Officer, this is a very specific request for about 70,000 square feet of self or mini storage in the existing Cypress Village PUD, which actually tracks back to about 1973. This is one of the last commercial parcels in the PUD. It's between the residential on the east side of Cypress Village Boulevard, and then you've got I-75 bordering the project just to the west. The parcel in question is designated R2 under this old plan. R2 allows for a variety of non-residential uses and residential uses. This one, staff felt mini warehouse was not within that R2 sphere of uses, hence the major modification. We took the position that the proper uses would link back to the future land use, which is SMU 6 in this case. There is an allowance for mini storage to obtain a 0.5 FAR in certain instances, and that's really the crux of this case. If you look in the staff report conditions, I believe 19 through 28 speak to our project, and conditions 25 through 29 speak to the enhanced design features and architectural elements we're willing to provide to make this a compatible project. There's a lot in there. It was a nice, I'll say, boisterous discussion with staff to get to an approvable point, but we did get there. We have one waiver with the application. That's for locational criteria. I think we wrote that up nicely and staff supports it. With that, I am happy to answer any questions on this one.
Okay. No questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Development Services.
Good evening, Sam Ball of Development Services. I am going to submit a revised, or a corrected report. There was a typo in condition 28.4. So anyway, the applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 730186 within the R2 use area with folio 54245.0630 to allow the property to be developed with a 4-story mini warehouse facility with up to 69,840 square feet. The subject property covers approximately 3.31 acres and is located between I-75 to the west and Cypress Village Boulevard to the east, and approximately 0.6 miles south of 19th Avenue and Avenue Northeast and Cypress Village Boulevard intersection. The property is developed for medical office use, and a home brewing neighborhood business with microbrewery is also a permitted use within the existing building on the property. The surrounding area consists of a mix of uses, including single-family, an assisted living facility, medical office, vacant land, a golf course, multifamily condominiums. The properties in the immediate vicinity are also located within the boundaries of PD 73-0186. The property adjoins Interstate 75 right-of-way to the west. A single-family residential is located to the east. A veterinary office is located to the south, and the land to the north is vacant. Allowable uses within the R2 use area with folio 54245.0630 include research corporate park, office condominiums, corporate research and development, hotel, convention facilities, recreation, clubs and amenities, restaurants, banks with drive-through, and the home brewing neighborhood business with microbrewery. If major modification 221340 is approved, the site development would include the mini warehousing without open storage or truck leasing, and general commercial zoning district standards would apply. The Type B buffer along the north property line shall also be enhanced with additional evergreen shade tree plantings along the length of the buffer that is adjacent to the mini warehouse building's north wall. The additional tree planting shall be planted not more than 15 feet apart. In addition, in addition to the additional plantings, the north and east building facades will be required to include specific enhancements and embellishments. Based on the adjacent zonings and proposed architectural enhancements, staff finds the proposed modification to 730186 compatible with the existing zoning districts and development pattern in the area. Staff also finds the request approvable, subject to conditions. That concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Mr. Ball, could you just go back? You said, I know you will submit a revised staff report, but could you just state what that typo is for the record? Because I don't see any glaring typos. So
The
just
sentence is incomplete.
Oh, okay.
There's an incomplete sentence within the in 28.4. It's kind of stops.
Oh, I see. It says the relative visual weight of material shall, and then it doesn't go further.
Correct. So I'm going to
Okay.
fill in the blank.
You'll fill in that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Planning Commission, please.
Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. It's in the urban service area and located within the limits of the South Shore area-wide systems community plan. Mini storage is not purely a retail use, but not also solely as a light industrial use. The applicant is proposing to utilize the 0.50 FAR available for light industrial uses in the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. The applicant is proposing enhanced site and building design and has committed to them as part of the application and conditions of approval. With that, the rezoning is consistent with the future land use element objective 16, policies 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, and 16.5, all of which describe the need to protect existing neighborhoods and communities and those that will emerge in the future. Several features have been provided, such as enhanced buffer to the north and unique placement of the stormwater area to wrap the south and east side of the building. The site does not meet commercial locational criteria in accordance with Objective 22. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the commercial locational criteria waiver request and finds the waiver supportable. The subject site was already designated for commercial use, and the self-storage facility is considered a low-traffic generator. In summary, the rezoning request is consistent with the planning practices and policy direction for self-storage facilities in the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. There is mitigation efforts proposed which satisfy the compatibility concerns with the abutting residential to the north. And based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
And applicant, anything further? Nothing? Okay. That closes the hearing on major modification 22-1340.
And the last item on the agenda is agenda item D5, rezoning PD 22-1705. The request is rezoned from AS1 and CI to Plan Development. Sam Ball will provide staff recommendation after presentation by the applicant.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. Clayton Bricklemeyer with Hillward Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard. Glad to be back in chambers. This site is just south of MLK on the east side of 301. In the interest of time, I'm just going to say we appreciate staff's work on this. I know Sam's going to read his stuff and Jillian will read hers. The only real item of note that I have is we had requested administrative variance and our withdrawal of that administrative variance didn't make it in time, so I'm going to submit that formally here. We cured that issue with conditions. I have my team available in the room and some online if you have any questions, but barring those, we would ask you for your recommendation of approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bricklemeyer.
Thanks.
Development Services.
Good evening, Sam Ball. Hillsborough County Development Services. I'm also going to submit a corrected report for this one. The overlay district is incorrect on the front page.
Okay.
The applicant is requesting to rezone 2 parcels from AS1 and CI to planned development to allow for the development of a 3-story mini warehouse facility of up to 81,420 square feet and 600 storage units. The 3.91 acre property is located along the east side of North US Highway 301, approximately 500 feet south of East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and North US Highway 301 intersection. The surrounding zoning and development pattern consists of a mix of business, utility, retail, and recreational uses. An eastern portion of the property abuts the western side of the Tampa Bypass Canal. The adjoining property to the south is zoned CI and is developed with mixed uses to include residential and motor vehicle repair. The abutting CG and CI split zone property to the north is developed for warehouse use. The property directly east of the subject property is zoned M and is developed for motor vehicle repair. The property to the east is also used for electric power transmission. The property opposite 301 to the west is zoned PD and is developed for office and warehouse use. Other uses in the general vicinity include mixed-use residential property with auto sales and open storage, 3 convenience stores with gas pumps, equipment rental, and Veterans Memorial Park. If PD 22-1705 is approved, development within the southern parcel A shall be restricted to a maximum of 81,420 square feet of mini warehouse uses with a maximum of 600 storage units and up to 24,426 square feet of accessory outdoor open storage uses. Development within the northern parcel, parcel B, shall be restricted to 22,670 square feet of commercial intensive uses, excluding banks, credit unions, convenience stores, gasoline sales, restaurants, and truck stops. Minimum setbacks, buffering and screening would be 20 feet from the rear and front and 5 feet from the side property lines. Building height would be limited to 3 stories up to 50 feet, and the overall FAR for parcels A and B combined would be 0.499, which is just under the 0.5 limit. Based on the intensive nature of the surrounding zoning and existing development pattern in the area, staff finds the proposed plan development compatible with the existing uses, zoning districts, and development pattern, and recommends approval subject to conditions. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Thank you.
Planning Commission.
Jillian Massey with Planning Commission staff. The subject site is in the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category, is in the Tampa service area and located within the limits of the Eastlake Orient Park Community Plan. And it's surrounded by Community Mixed Use 12 on all sides. The proposed rezoning is consistent with Objective 8 and Policy 8.1 as the proposed uses meet the intent of what is typical in the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. The proposed mini warehouse facility, covered outdoor vehicle storage, and existing light commercial building fall within the community scale retail, community, and light industrial multi-purpose uses that are described for this future land use category. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of Objective 16 and Policies 16.2, 16.3, 16.5, and 17.7. The proposed site plan indicate cross-access between adjacent folios and show appropriate setbacks and buffers. There is a proposed stormwater pond located at the rear of the site. The proposed covered outdoor vehicle parking is located to the south and rear of the building and is completely gated. The subject site meets the intent of the Eastlake Orient Park Community Plan. The park encourages business uses to locate along US 301 from the Tampa Bypass Canal to Hillsborough Avenue. Furthermore, another goal desires industrial uses and employment to be preserved and protected, and the proposed plan development meets the intent of these goals and strategies in the community plan. And based on these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Applicant, anything further? Nothing? Okay. All right, this will conclude the hearing on rezoning PD 22-1705, and this will conclude the zoning hearing master meeting for this evening.